知性めっちゃみなぎってきた。
What's up, everybody? Happy New Year, except it's not New Year, it's mostly done with February. I was just putting this off because I wanted to finish Castoria before I did this, because I wanted to go over my 120s from last year, but she wouldn't have been 120 until today. Unfortunate, I know, a little late, but better late than never. So as you can see, I'm at 9 120s now, up from 4 from the video last year. Last year we had Meltrellis, Meloine, Creamhild, and Vango was who I finished on January 1st. In the past year, I have 120 Daikoten, Neato Alter, Tono, Castoria, and Summer Meloine. So I just wanted to kind of go over those. The first one being, of course, Summer Melt, who is my, unfortunately, Bond 15, which means she's been sent to the pasture. We don't talk about her anymore. We don't think about her anymore. Don't use her for farming anymore. Not like she's terribly useful for farming, unfortunately, because the Lancer class, unfortunately, was massively power crept by Meloine and has not financially recovered from this. It's still basically for farming. You just use Meloine if you need a Lancer. Either that or you're going anti-trait. But Melt 120. 2k foes, which is good. It helps her attack stat. Bond 15, obviously maxed out here with the pens as well, and MP5, and of course, fully faux pod. I do remember Melt was the first 120 I started, but when they released 120, I was stupid. I did not realize that 120 would need coins, so I went in and I immediately unlocked her pens. And then I went to Grail, and I realized, hold on a second, the coins are used for this as well. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm sure they'll add blank coins or a way to obtain coins. They did not. And it took me till many months later. I had actually finished 120ing someone by the time I was able to get enough copies for Melt, but I still consider Melt the first because she was the one I started first and she's the oldest one here. Moving on to Vango. Vango is, 120, only 1k foes, just because, Vango fills the support role, but is also a brawler DPS soloist. But with the limited amount of gold foes to go around, it's just kind of hard to, dump them in there when there's a farmer, one that I can use for farming or challenge quests more often that will pull it off better. Of course, her skills are maxed, her pens are maxed, MP5, of course, and no full pause. Funny story about this. I was not going to 120 Go. I had Go at MP2 and then, MP2 and level 100. And then when she got another rate up, I got her up to MP5. There was some reason, and I do not remember what it was, but I remember I did a roll, and I believe I did a roll and I got a Vango, and then I got a double Vango in another roll, or something like that. I just got 3 Vangos back to back, or maybe it was 2 rolls for one and then a daily single gave me a third one, and I was like, wow, I have 8 Vangos. Is that a sign? And I took that as a positive sign, and I 120'd Vango. Don't regret it. She's a fun character. I think by far the most fun of the solo characters that, I've played with. I know people like Super Ryan or Tyra or the other ones, but Vango is the one that fits my playstyle the best, and so, I like her. Also, of course, mental issues. Then we get to the one who reached 120 first, Lancer Meloine, 2k foes, Bond 15, which means unfortunately she's also been sent to out to the pasture. Unfortunately, I'll still pull her out if I need to, but I have a wide breadth of coverage now, so I don't need to rely on her as much. She is, of course, max faux pod as well. My preferred ascension, of course, is Ascension 2, or 3rd Ascension Red when I try to do challenge quests with her. It is funny looking back when Meloine first came out. I thought she was neat, but I was very dismissive of her potential. because at the time I was very, ew, Buster. Who likes Buster servants? Why would people grail Buster? Grail arts, that's how you get things done. And while I've been, historically, I think proven wrong, as I think the meta is the most healthy it's ever been. I think all 3 card types are valuable and viable for different things. But also, I just really liked Meloine in Lost Belt 6, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna 120 her anyway. Really like her. After that, I acquired Daikokten, who I grailed to 100 initially. Daikokten is the one that I would say, if you want to go off the joke of mental issues, I don't think Daikokten has mental issues, unless you count stupidity as one. But, I don't know if I would. Daikokten is 2k foed. Daikokten is 2k foed for a very specific reason. It's because they're a caster and they hit like a wet potato. They do. They're good. Like their damage is good for an AoE caster, but like, they have the negative modifier. I wanted to bump them up more. Daikokten is, drawn by Ryo, the artist who does the learning with manga. But the thing about Daikokten is their art style reminded me when I saw them of a very old Idolmaster art that Ryo used to draw. And that's where I was first introduced to Ryo, is his Idolmaster art. And so I saw that and I was like, wow, this is his older style, or reminiscent of his older style. I really like that, and I liked the characters. Being maids helped. I'm a fan of maids. I don't know. As a normal person, I'm a fan of maids. But yeah, no, I still use them. They're a good farmer. I now have class score for casters pretty much maxed. I am waiting on some of the ordeal call things. But with the help of class score and the 2k foes and the 120, I think that they're actually pretty viable farmers. They don't need starting charge if it's a normal node. They work in multi-core. Obviously, for most people at level 80, you're not going to get the same value. But if you like them and invest in them, I don't think they're a bad choice. Up next is Creamhild, who is a poster child for mental issues. And the Valentine's event certainly proved that a little bit. She is 2k, of course. She's bond 13 and a half. Now here's the thing, I don't backline my grailed servants. So all of these that you see is me using them for something. And Creamhild, until Castoria, was my main servant in 90++. Very useful. Still, I think, arguably one of the best single target berserkers in the game. Outclasses many of the 5 stars, especially with her traits and the way she accesses things. I even rolled enough copies to unlock her anti-saber, her crit saber anti-crit append, which is by far the most useless append skill in the game as anything on a berserker, but I did it anyway. Obviously, she is fully faux pod. And MP5. But yeah, Creamhild, still stand by. I have 2 single target arts berserkers at 120 now. So you may say, like, why would you use Creamhild now when you got Castoria? Well, I mean, traits come into play, and sometimes just variety. Variety is the spice of life, and sometimes Creamhild's skills and abilities may come in handy. And also, especially for challenge quests, I think that Creamhild, with her targeted taunt, is easier to exploit things on than Castoria giving your supports invincibility every time she NPs, which is not my favorite effect in the game, but I gotta work around it. After that is the king of potatoes at 120, and that would be Neato Alter, which you wouldn't suspect with a 17k attack stat, but you know what? Somehow she sometimes just doesn't do enough damage. Unfortunate. I mean, but it's really not that her damage is low. It's that when you're comparing her to some of the other 120s you see here, her damage is not up to par with the rest of them. And that's mostly the fault of the other 120s being extremely strong. And Neato Alter, her strengths lie elsewhere. Her strengths mainly lie on the fact that she has a 100% battery. She's general pool. and she has I mean, a decent set of skills and passives. You know what? I use her enough. The best thing I use her for is if there's ever like just normal nodes for like experience farm or QP farm or interludes, I have a team of Ruler Meloine, or sorry, of Arc, Neato, Alter, and Creamhild. And all with Bonsies, I just backline whoever I want, and they just, you know, Neato Alter handles the middle wave just fine, Creamhild handles the final wave, Arc being a potato and not Grail handles the first wave, because that's all she can barely do. But yeah, Neato Alter is very good farmer, useful. I like Neato Alter. Neato Alter is definitely a Grail because I like Neato Alter and Neato a lot. Nothing to do with gameplay, though. Nothing to do with gameplay. I would say that Daikokten is also one of those. Melt is one of those. The rest, anyone could argue, well, you just did that for gameplay. And I like to get, I'm going to be honest, when I Grail, I only want to Grail servants I really, really like. But I also will only 120 them if I see myself getting particular value out of that. I want both. I want the characters I really, really like, and I want to get value out of them. Next on the list was the first 120 of the summer set, and that was Tono. Tono is almost Bond 12. She is 2k Fode, 120, and of course, as I mentioned with Daikokten, my Castor class score is almost maxed. Tono, I think, is my most useful 120 because her skill set allows her to do things. She handles challenge quests very well. She handles farming very well. Single core and in multi-core, she's invaluable. She does things that no one else does. And I really... Tono is also a servant that I wanted after Lost Belt 6. I've always wanted, if they were going to make a Morgan alternate, to make it Tono, because I think Tono is one of the highlights of Lost Belt 6 for me. Just, you know, the whole situation around her. It's very tragic and kind of sad. And one of my favorite bits in the story there is her and Mash. I wish that was expanded on. I could probably read, if they wanted to like expand that into like a full chapter, like a full like story chapter or a book or a light novel or something, I'd read it 100% without a doubt. But I do have her, you know, append skills fully done. Anti-Berserker, which is great for farming. MP5, of course, for that maximum anti-evil damage. Tono being an anniversary servant, with the latest trend seems to be their special effect scales with their NP level and not with overcharge. So, you know, roll those copies. But even at MP2, she does pretty good. She, of course, is max faux pod completely. I prefer Ascension 2, but that's not to say Ascension 1 is bad. It's got a fancy hat and no wizard robes. Ascension 3 is my least favorite. It's not bad and I don't dislike it, but the reason I'm here is for Tono, not so much for Morgan. Yeah, once again, I think probably the best bang for the buck 120 I have with how much I'm able to just use her for things. As you can see, it's been 6 months now since I've obtained her. Yeah, because it was the end of July. We're at the end of February now. So it's been about 6 months, and she's already at Bond 12 almost. I fear that by the next time I make this video, so next year, I'll have even more 120s, but she'll be Bond 15 probably. Speaking of Bond 15, Castoria might be well on her way there. She is my newest 120 that I just finished today. 2k foes here. Obviously 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. I am waiting for Bond 12 in order to unlock this final append. Obviously MP5 and completely faux pod. Castoria is, I love her second ascension. Once again, it's kind of, you know, it's Alice in Wonderland type, but, you know, a little maid-ish, not quite, but, you know, obviously first is fun and nice, and third, it T-poses on you to a certain dominance, but my personal favorite is the Alice outfit. Big fan of those. If you look at my oldest videos on YouTube, you'll see some hints of that. It's very, very sad hints. But no, I mentioned this earlier with Creamhild though. Castor is the other, I think, one of the best single targets in the game. Obviously, you could make an argument, you know, for like Draco or Kentucky, you know, beating her in certain things. But with Castoria's ease of use, you know, overcharge effects, you know, the trait she can hit, 70% battery, being arts for one. I don't know. I think she's just one of the best single targets in the game. The only downside, of course, being what I mentioned before, where every time she MPs, she gives your supports a stack of anti-perch defense, which makes it really, really hard to kill your esports servants because they need to get hit an additional time, which sometimes does not happen. And finally on the list is Summer Meloine, the ruler version of Meloine, who unfortunately does not transform. She is the definition of just a stat beat stick. Like, her only really impressive thing is Blue Horizon with its, you know, 80% battery and its 2-time 3-turn invuln, you know, allows her to MP on turn 1 right away. The damage cut on her first skill for the allies, once again, only messes me up with min turns, so I have to cast it before I swap in whoever I want to die. And unfortunately, her Eternal Arms Mastery is weaker than her Lancer version. I wish it was 5,000%, but it is only 500% this time. But if it is on water side, it's, you know, 300 or 30 stars per turn, which is not bad. Obviously, I have her completely maxed out here. All depends. I did get 7 copies of her. So, and of course, completely bow pod. As you can see, I have her in Ascension 2. This Ascension reminds me of her final Ascension for her Lancer form. Those are my personal favorite, but I mean, there's no denying that this is really good as well. You know, the mask, the outfits, the pose, you know, it's all very delightful and charming. Third is, I like third, but it's also it's not as elegant, I don't think. So I don't mind seeing it during the NP, and I think the actual battle animations are cool. But when I'm just sitting there, like on the like screen, or like sitting there in battle, I just prefer to see Second Ascension over Third, even if Third has some of the cooler animations and also has the funnier MP voice line. So those are my 120s, my 9 120s that I have currently. And some might ask, well, what's your plans for the future? And well, here they are on the screen. My intent is to, at this point, to save up 17 grails at once, because I am coping very hard that Castor drop will come out sometime this year. And my plan is to 120 her as well, hopefully. So I'm going to save grails, and if by the time I hit 17, Castor drop is not out, I will be dumping them into... I will be dumping them into Barghest, who is in her maid outfit, which is her best Ascension. And after Barghest, I will follow the same pattern again, and then complete the Summer Bavanchi to 120 as well. I did obtain 11 copies of each, so there's no problems 120ing both of them. I planned this in advance. I'm going to 120, as you can see here at the bottom. The entire Lost Belt 6 crew, except for Naknaria, I don't particularly wish to 120 her, nothing wrong with her, but I just prefer the original set of 5, but the summer version of them all. Yeah, so what I would like to say is, you know, is it worth it to 120 instead of railing to 100? Absolutely yes. Do I recommend it to everyone else? Yes. Stop being a coward and commit yourself to something for once.